After a Dance by Bridget O'Connor, with an introduction by Constance Straughan, read by Syrus Lowe and Amy-Leigh Hickman. Introduction read by Constance Straughan.
Introduction by Constance Straughan. My mother's grandmother, her namesake, Bridget O'Connor, worked as a maid on an Irish estate. One day, a bull charged at her master, and she jumped over the fence with a pitchfork and stabbed it to death. Every year afterwards, she was gifted a flower to commemorate her courage. In 1993, she was given a copy of her granddaughter's book of short stories, entitled Here Comes John. It just so happens that the elder Bridget O'Connor received a visit from the parish priest on the first Friday of every month. On one of his trips, she paid him to say Mass over the book, as a form of exorcism. Until then, she sat on it, so that no one would see it. In an interview, to celebrate her debut, my mother was asked about her parents' reactions. My mother said it was very poetical, but she told my brother she thought it was very boring. She said there's enough swearing on buses and on the television. The interviewer noted, "The author is disarmingly, if disconcertingly, frank." The exorcised stories are filled with dark, cruel, lonely people wandering around, lost. Selfish people attract me, my mother once said, because they're not soaking up any experience, not really seeing anything. There is often a gap between who the narrator thinks they are and who we understand them to be. Funny then that all four of my mother's siblings were convinced that there was one story written about each of them. Tina, in I'm Running Late, who is too transfixed by her yellowing teeth to realise that her friend is telling her she's HIV positive, is based on my sister Peggy actually. She pops up again in the second collection, which takes its title from the time that Peggy's boyfriend asked my mother out for dinner in exchange for relationship advice. Only interested in the free meal, she said distractedly, just tell her you love her. Her sister Rosie inspired the conniving gold digger in Here Comes John, and her brother James features as a best man on a bender in Love Jobs. The standout cameo, however, is her sister Kathleen, who was once given a goldfish by a boyfriend and, when they broke up, took to trying to stab the fish to death with a fork, which finds its way into heavy petting. My mother appears as herself in a series of comedy stories written for the Irish Post, in which she plays a failing writer, as delusional as any of her characters. I looked in the mirror and told myself some lies whilst blinking. You have, I said, a new 2 book deal. You have been shortlisted for the Orange Prize. All your rivals have died in a bloody skirmish at the Arts Council whilst receiving prizes meant for you. Real life and fiction continue to blur, even in her letters, which also exist in the world of story. There are enemies, friends, true loves. She's thrilled by her new word processor. She attends C&D protests for the cake. Princess Diana walks down her street. During the day, she works at a bookshop on Muswell Hill, and the boredom inspires shop talk. In her words, nothing happens, and yet the day has been packed with feeling. In her neighbourhood, there are big trees and 10-year-old muggers. Moving into a house with no lock on the front door, she writes, I foiled the burglar by putting up loads of bricks against the door and various saucepans to trip over. And then, at an Abbey National cash machine, she's robbed at knife point, a moment which is reanimated in Tell Her You Love Her. Martina Evans writes about the incident in the Irish Times. She continues, I think of her every time I pass the Irish pub, where Bridget once saw 2 nuns pulling pints behind the counter. She assured me they were not in fancy dress, but family members helping out in an emergency. And they are as real in my imagination now as the Joycean barmaids in Ulysses, even though I never saw them, and I'm still not sure Bridget wasn't pulling my leg. When asked what the most overrated virtue is, my mother answered, truth-telling.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?